So we've got to a situation where somebody has been doing CPR on a person who is unconscious and is not breathing or not breathing normally. By ringing the ambulance service, they will tell you where the nearest available defibrillator is, and they will also tell you the code to be able to get access to that defibrillator, which will be in a case. You can actually download onto your phone an app called Save a Life, and it can be downloaded from your app store, and this is what it looks like. Now, once a defibrillator is on the scene, and this is an example of a defibrillator which roughly the sort of size that they come in. Some of them are in a bag like this, others are in a harder case. If it's in a harder case, when you open the case up, it actually turns it on. But these type, which have a zip fastener, okay, you undo the zip and you open it up, and it will not come on until you press the green on button here. When you do that, it will start to talk to you and it will tell you what to do. At this point, it will tell you to put the pads onto the patient's bare chest. Now the pads may be actually connected to them, or they may be separate, as they are in this case. And what happens is that you have to put the pads onto that bare chest. Now normally, the patient would be wearing clothing at top, and to do so, to remove that clothing, you may have to use scissors, which are actually provided in the case, such as these. They're like a shear scissors, and you literally cut right the way through the clothing down to the bare skin. Okay? They're designed so they won't hurt the patient, a blunt edge, and you can remove the clothing, even a bra on a lady with a wire, this can cut through anything like that as well. In addition to that, you may find the patient's chest is very, very damp, because obviously they get very clammy. So where the pads are going to go, we'll need to wipe that area where the pads are going with a cloth, which again can be actually in there, or you can just get a handkerchief, something like this, to be able to wipe those areas and to dry them off. In the case of some gentlemen who've got very hairy chests, you may even have to use the safety razor and you literally shave that area just where the pads are going to go as well. Once the chest is prepared, we can take the pads out from the packet and open up, and you'll see that the pads have got pictures on them. Okay? Number one pad is actually showing you where the pad will go. It will go on the patient underneath their collarbone on the right side, about there. The other pad will go underneath the armpit about 10 centimetres or 4.5 inches underneath the armpit on that side. So that's the two positions for the pads. Now the pads themselves have got a sticky backing on them, and you just peel that off like that. You place it on in that position, pressing down, making sure it's a nice firm pressing position, and again unpeel this again and place it on there. So with the pads in position and firmly pressed down, okay, the machine will be telling you to put the connector into the flashing lights. When we turn the machine on, it will have told us to put the pads into the appropriate position on the bare chest.
Apply pads to patient's bare chest. Plug in pads connector next to flashing light.
And as you do that, it will only go in one position. It can't be put in the wrong way. Once you've done that,
analysing heart rhythm. Do not touch the patient.
It will start to analyse the patient's heart condition. It's now going to be looking at the electrical activity of the patient's heart. If the heart is in fibrillation, where it's quivering about and not beating normally, it will charge up the battery, and you'll hear in a moment, and it will then charge up and ready to shock. If, however, the heart is beating normally or is not in fibrillation, it will advise you no shock advised. and so therefore there's no need to shock the patient, and you can't shock them because it won't charge up either. So what we'll do is just put it on again, and you can hear as the pad's in position and being connected.
Analyzing heart rhythm. Do not touch the patient.
Do not touch the patient now at all.
Shock advised.
Advising shock.
Charging. Stay clear of patient.
You notice when it's ready to charge.
Deliver shock now. Press
Yes,
the
shock
orange
button.
button now.
Now it comes on. And we're ready to make sure nobody is touching the patient. All clear. And pressing the
Deliver
shock.
shock now. Shock delivered. Paused. If no signs of circulation, start CPR.
And so, when the patient is shocked, the energy shock will go through the patient, and the patient may move suddenly like that because of the voltage that's actually going through, or the energy that's going through the patient, to try and shock the patient's heart to working normally again. Right. So what we're going to do now is put into practice what we've just been going through, okay? We've got somebody doing CPR on the patient initially, so here we go, okay? And whilst they're doing that, somebody's made the phone call and has got the defibrillator. The defibrillator now arrives, okay? And here it is. And without any waste of time, we now need to turn the machine on, the defibrillator, and it starts to talk to us.
Apply pads to patient's bare chest.
So we get the patient pads out,
Plug
ready.
in pad connector next to flashing
We need
light.
to remove any clothing from the patient, we need to dry any areas, and we need to cut off, as I say, any clothing to get access to the
Apply
bare chest.
Plug in connector.
It will keep reminding us to do this. We get the pads, number one, we unpeel it and put it just underneath the collarbone on the right hand side. This side, number two, goes underneath the armpit, but about
Apply pads.
4.5
Plug in
inches,
connector.
4.5 inches or 10 centimetres. And once that's done, it keeps reminding us what to do. We now need to put the connector into the actual point there. Okay, with that done, it will now to analyse the
Analyzing
patient.
heart rhythm. Do not touch the patient.
It's important we don't touch the patient, otherwise we will interfere within analysing.
Shock advised. Charging. Stay clear of patient.
It's charging its battery up. We don't touch the patient at all.
Deliver shock
It's
now.
now telling
Press
us
the orange button
to shock the
now.
patient. Make sure nobody's about, make sure there's nobody touching it, no oxygen nearby, and we're going to now shock the patient. Stand by, everybody.
Deliver shock
Stay clear.
now. Shock delivered.
The patient is shocked,
Pause.
okay? See
If no signs of circulation, start
If
CPR.
there's no signs of any life at all, we go straight on without any further delay and start doing chest compressions. And we'll do this 30 compressions and 2 inflations, repeated until about 2 minutes, when the machine, the defibrillator, will actually come back into analysing again and to see if the patient's condition has changed.